Hi, this is country recording artist Matt Weston, and you're watching the Amato podcast.
All right. Today we're talking to Matt Weston. He's an international country recording artist. His album was named IMEA Country Album of the Year in 2019, and that is International Music and Entertainment Association, if you don't know what IMEA is. His new album, Legacy, is available everywhere. Please check it out. Definitely support independent artists. It's very important. You can find him pretty much everywhere: YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. We'll put all the links up for you as well. Welcome. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, brother. It's good to be here. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. You're coming from Pittsburgh, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. Born and raised.
Not too far from us.
Yeah.
How'd you get involved in music?
Oh, that's kind of a long story. I'll give you the short version. Uh, well, I mean, my whole life I've been involved one way or another with music. When I was a kid in school, I played in the band and the orchestra and stuff. Just always been around it. I didn't sing at all when I was a kid. I didn't really know how. I actually taught myself how to sing in college, and it kind of became a passion of mine, singing. And I would sing with my cousin's band or my friend's band or just karaoke. I actually DJ'd karaoke for quite a while, and I just loved it as a hobby. Never really pursued it as anything more serious than that. But I guess it's been 4 years now. I I lived in Los Angeles for a little while. I was pursuing acting. This is after I was an engineer. I've done a lot of a lot of stuff.
I was going to ask
Anyway,
you that.
I was in LA pursuing acting, and my father got sick. And so, about a year after I moved to Los Angeles, my dad died. And as you could imagine, I was a mess. I was in a really dark, dangerous place. It was scary, but I was really angry and I was lost and I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. I wasn't happy with engineering, so I left that in the past. And I moved back to Pittsburgh because I was a mess and I had to be around my family. So acting seemed to be left on the West Coast, and I was here in Pittsburgh with nothing. And my father was gone, and I was a mess. And it kind of hit me one day, and I'm not sure how. It was kind of like an epiphany, as they say. I just knew I had to pursue music. My dad, he'd always loved my singing. He loved it. He encouraged my music for years. He encouraged me to keep pursuing it. So I just decided, you know what better way to honor his legacy and honor him than to pursue music. And so I did. I created an album, my debut album, and I named it Legacy, and dedicated it to my dad. And it really just kind of took off from the beginning. Right from there, it seemed like it was blessed from the beginning. I was doing it. I turned tragedy into a triumph. And honored my father in the process. And actually, I think it may have saved my life. To be honest with you, I don't know. I wasn't going down a good path. I was going down that downward spiral. And it gave me a new purpose and a new passion in life. So I really rebuilt myself from scratch using, well, between my family and God and music, I really started a new life for myself. So it's a different kind of story. How'd you get into music? But that's my story, and it's been pretty bittersweet, but it's been also very rewarding, very rewarding.
So I also lost my dad from I was reading your story from leukemia. Same
Yeah,
same thing. So
sorry.
I understand it's a hard deal.
Yes.
Um, so you didn't plan on going into music. That's it.
No.
It's interesting. Um,
Yeah.
so it's a gift,
It
honestly.
it is a gift from God. It is. It's funny. When I was a kid, I couldn't carry a tune in a bucket. That's what I used to say. And I taught myself how to sing, um, emulating guys like Frank Sinatra. Believe it or not, I sing country music, but Johnny Cash was a big influence. Garth Brooks, Toby Keith, stuff with a little bit more testosterone. A little bit of masculinity to it. So. I learned how my voice worked, emulating those guys, and it just built from there. And I keep, honestly, the more I do it, the better I get at it. I guess that's normal.
So I was just going to say, when I think of country music, and I listen to your music, like it
Mhm.
doesn't like say country music to me. It's more of um, like you just said, a testosterone charged, like their anthems. I love them. Um, did you set out to be a little different, or is that just your style?
I just wanted to make music that I liked, really. I like every different kind of music that you could think of, pretty much. And so a lot of influences. And we just we created something that I like, and I think something that my dad would have liked. And that's the sound that we have. It really just comes from personal preference, I think. And when it's right and when it's done, I know it. And then, all right, hit print. It's done. So it's just how it works. And the
How
good thing is, I surround myself with like the amazing people that really believed in my vision and in why I was doing it, and they got to know me really well, and we really just put together something I think is probably my proudest accomplishment thus far in my life. So it's incredible how it goes from darkness to light, um, and I know my dad's smiling right now. So
Absolutely. What was it? Was it difficult? I mean, you weren't in the music business. Could you tell me about that whole
yeah,
transition from being an
absolutely,
engineer?
yeah. Well, as you know, like singing in a studio compared to singing in a band or at karaoke is a lot different. So when I first stepped into the studio, we actually did a couple songs, um, kind of to get my feet wet, to be honest with you. And I really, my producer, Brian Cole, is a great voice coach and a great musician in his own right and a great producer, but he would coach me and he would challenge me and I would work at it. And every time I would meet his challenge, and he would just continue to push me. So it was difficult. It was a learning curve, really, to learn how to record um, in a studio. Um, but now, actually, it's becoming relatively easy. Like we recorded a song. I think I was done with all the lead vocals within about a half an hour. So
Wow. Wow.
it started out the first two songs. It was like maybe an hour, 2 hours per song, making sure we get it right. And now, with more experience under my belt, it gets easier and easier. So yeah, it was difficult, but it gave me something to shoot for. It gave me a goal to work towards. It gave me something to distract me and something to work towards. And that really helped pull me out of that pit that I was in after losing my dad. So the challenge of it actually became part of the blessing. So that's pretty cool.
Did you have any misconceptions about going in the music business? Like, did you have some beliefs and then you're in the business now and things kind of just changed your mind or your outlook on it?
Yes. Well, I had been living in Los Angeles, as I mentioned before, pursuing acting. And it's a different culture out there than here on the East Coast. And as you know, as the cliches and the stereotypes describe, that's really kind of how the culture is, kind of superficial. People were like, "What's in it for me?" Um, and just fake. A lot of fake friends out there. Um, and I expected the same thing in music because that it's entertainment industry. I figured it was basically the same thing, but I was pleasantly surprised. I've made some amazing friends in Pittsburgh and in Nashville, and been welcomed with open arms and with nothing but support and help and love. I just It's a different culture in the music world than it is in the acting world, and I was pleasantly surprised at that. It's made it definitely a lot easier on me to pursue it. Being surrounded by good people, so that's important.
Who've been your biggest supporters?
Well, outside of my family and my friends, my girlfriend, my producer Brian Cole has been like a brother to me. Really has become a good friend. Um, the owner of a studio here in Pittsburgh that I cut my first album, uh, Doug Casper. He's a great friend. Um, and some people in Nashville, different musicians and songwriters and publishers down there. Dallas Gregory's for one, his whole family. He's a publisher in Nashville, and they're the warmest, kindest, most welcoming people I've ever met in my life. You know, if I go to Nashville to record or to write some music, they get mad if I don't stay at their house while I'm there. You know, they're just so warm and welcoming, and I just love them. And if they're watching, I don't know, I'll just give them a little shout out. So I love you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What's with Pittsburgh? It seems like Pittsburgh has like this great scene for music and country music.
Yeah, yeah. Pittsburgh has a lot of different music, actually. It's really, Pittsburgh's kind of always been a melting pot, and in the arts as well. Uh, I mean, right now everything's shut down. It's tough to, you can't really see any live shows anywhere, unfortunately, but that's everywhere. But Pittsburgh, I think it's actually growing. There's this music festival. I think it's been going 4 or 5 years now, the Deutschtown Music Festival, it's called Deutschtown. And I think they had like a couple hundred stages in different locations set up, and I think over 300, or I want to say 300, that might be a little high, but about that many bands played through the whole festival. I guess it's a few days long. And I mean, just live music's popping up in a lot of different places now. Not quite like Nashville, where you just walk down the street, you go to an ice cream shop, and there's a guy with a guitar inside. You know, it's a little different. But Pittsburgh is, I think it's just building and building, and our community's getting younger too, because of all the research and the schools here, and the medicine and the robotics and a lot of the technology that's coming out of Pittsburgh and Carnegie Mellon and stuff like that. We have a lot of younger people here now. That are really starting to bring the arts to Pittsburgh in a big way. And I think I'm just really getting into it at the right time. I really am.
Nice. So I got to ask you, how has this lockdown affected your plans, at least currently?
Yeah. Well, April was supposed to be a pretty big month for me in general. I mean, let's see. I was supposed to be at a wedding April 4th, first weekend of April. The next weekend was my birthday, April 10th. So that got pretty much canceled. And then this past weekend, I was supposed to be in Kentucky at Bobby Mackey's Music World. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's an old school honky tonk in Wilder, Kentucky.
Yep.
And I go there for my birthday now. It's a tradition. We go there every year. And we have a blast. I love that place. And I get to go on stage and perform with Bobby Mackey himself a couple times,
Wow.
which is cool. So that was this past weekend. Didn't happen. And then this coming week, I was on the 28th going to be recording my new album in Nashville at Sony Studios. So that's canceled now too. It's been a rough, depressing month. It really has been tough on me. But you know what? Everything's just going to be postponed, I think, and we'll get it done. We'll get it done. Just not as soon as I'd hoped. So I'm just trying to stay positive. It's been tough, but this nice weather's helped. I'll tell you that. Pittsburgh's
definitely getting.
City. Pittsburgh is one of the gloomiest cities in the country, so it's a little tough. But today is beautiful.
How are you staying in touch with like your fans who want to hear your music?
Doing stuff like this. Just interviews, written interviews as well. I haven't really done anything on Facebook Live. I mean, I don't have a band right now at the moment, and if I did, we couldn't do anything anyways. We're all quarantined, so it's a little more difficult right now. I think people are coming up with new ways to interact with the fans, and I haven't really done a lot of that, unfortunately. But this counts, right? I mean, it has to. It has to.
Absolutely. And it helps. It helps just talking to somebody, instead of just sitting in the room, looking at the wall. Yeah,
I agree.
Could you talk about your writing process? I mean, we can go down and talk about some of your songs, but how do you? So a song like "Hey Bro," which I love, we used it as an intro to one of our videos. How do you come up with that for somebody who doesn't write music?
Well, that song was actually written by a friend of mine, well, two friends of mine, DJ Gleason and Joey Scott in Nashville. And They honestly didn't. I asked them about that song in particular. They didn't really have an idea of what happened. They were just like, we wanted to do something with like "Hey Bro" in it because everyone says "Hey Bro," so we just kind of came up with it. I was like, that's it, that's it. But it turned out awesome, and the song, the lyrics, everything really just spoke to me. So I had to record this song, and it took on a special meaning for me actually. My cousin was really he almost died in a car accident last year. Very it was brutal. He was in the ICU for about a month. And when he finally came home and I let him hear the song before it was even released, and I saw him tapping his foot and clenching his fist, and he was still pretty maimed, pretty mangled. But he was so pumped up at this song. I just got all teary eyed and I was like, man, this song is dedicated to you. And it's all about like, having each other's backs and having that bond that's stronger than blood and just the love that you have for your fellow man. And, so that song took on a special meaning to me, but I didn't write that one. But when I do write, it usually, it's funny. I find inspiration in almost anywhere. It just kind of hits me. And when it hits me, I know it. I can't really force it. Sometimes I try and it's just not cool. And then I'll come back to it and I'll write the whole thing in a half hour. It's weird. It's kind of like a stream of consciousness thing once it starts, you know. But then sometimes you get that mind block. But I'm more of a lyricist, to be honest. Since I was a kid, I'd written poetry and songs and stories and stuff. So I was good with words. And so I'm more of a lyricist. And the music usually comes after. That comes after. Like I wrote a song that's not released yet called "The Thin Blue Line." It's dedicated to law enforcement and first responders in general, but mainly law enforcement. And because I have a lot of friends in law enforcement and they need support, probably more now than ever. But that song I wrote with Joey Scott in Nashville, and I came in and I said, look, Joey, this is where I'm coming from. This is what I'm passionate about, and why. I explained the whole reason why the song needed to be created to her. And we sat there for a few hours and just wrote the most like heartwarming and real lyrics that that we could come up with, and it turned out beautifully. I'm so proud of this song, and it's really just kind of like a brainstorming session. It really is. It's and I love writing with other people because you throw anything out there, as crazy as it may be, any thought you may have, even though it's not going to work, it might spark another idea that does work, and that's just how it works, like brainstorming, honestly. So I just kind of try to clear my mind and let it flow. Like honestly, I feel like it flows like out of my heart. It's I want my songs to have some kind of a meaning. So it's really cool to write with other people. It's actually kind of a new experience for me. I've always written alone until about 3 years ago. So I'm pretty sure that I'm going to get better at it. I think I'm pretty good at right now, but I really need to get back to more songwriting. Honestly, with this quarantine and everything, I've been kind of a lazy bum. I've been so like glued to the screen and trying to figure out what's going on in the world and what the hell I'm going to do, and trying not to get depressed, thinking about stuff. So I've had a pretty tough time focusing in the last month or two. But I'm looking forward to getting back into it once all this crap is over.
Hopefully soon.
My process is like I'm more of a lyricist, and then the music comes later. But inspiration can come from just about anywhere. It really can. I mean, look at that Red Solo Cup song. Jeez, Anyway,
When will Thin Blue Line be released?
I don't have a date yet. I want to tweak it a little bit before it's released.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when we get back in the studio, hopefully very much sooner than later, then I'll have an update on that.
Are you a perfectionist in that regard?
A little bit. I kind of have been my whole life in everything. But I know, like, when it comes to art, any kind of art, being a perfectionist could actually ruin it. So a lot of times if something's bothering me, I'll take a step back because, you can be too close to it. you could be a lot like that you can't really see what you're or hear what you're supposed to hear, and just you're too close to it. So I take a step back a few days later, maybe a week later, and I listen to it. And then the thing that bothered me doesn't bother me anymore. It's you can't be too much of a perfectionist. So I think if you aim for what, the vision that you have, and you get close enough to it, you got to allow for the nuances, because that's what makes it unique and special. You can't choke it. You can't choke it out with control. You have to have a little bit of artistic license there. A little bit of margin on the sides, and I think that's where a lot of the beauty ends up coming from. Things that you don't expect. Things that you don't expect.
And not everybody's going to love it.
Right.
So, you have to love it.
That's the most important thing. If I don't like it, I mean, there might be someone that does, but I'll be afraid to show it to anybody if I don't like it. So, yeah. So really
how do you deal? How do you deal when you go online, and you do see the random comment? Some people are crazy, but just the haters or the trolls that you might get an occasional comment. Does it bother you?
No, not really. Not really. Honestly, I haven't experienced a lot of that. I really haven't. I had a lot of positive support and feedback. I've had like some people say things, I don't like this song, but I like this song. I'm like, that's cool. You don't have to like it. It's, to each their own. I'm still proud of it, and I still like it. And it's coming from the heart. It's coming from the right place. I'm not out there trying to win people's adoration. I'm not doing it for that. So if you don't like it, fine. Don't listen to it. It doesn't bother me any.
What is your ultimate goal? What's the end of the road look like to you?
I would really love to just make a living doing this and doing what I love. That's why I walked away from engineering, because I was dying inside. I needed something that could like feed my soul, something that fed that creative side of my brain that apparently is stronger than the logical side of my brain, because engineering just wasn't doing it for me. So I just want to make a living doing what I'm happy. And the relationships actually that you make through doing this have become so important to me. That's another big part of it. So, if I end up building a nice life for myself, that's really the goal. I don't care about, I don't want to be famous, to be honest with you. Maybe somewhat famous, but not too crazy. I just want to be happy, which is probably the hardest thing to do in this world.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
What do you like to do besides music? Like, what are you into?
Going to the gym when it's open. It's killing me that it's not. I love
Me
to
too.
exercise. I love sports. I've played every sport you could think of, but now I bowl, and I'm a golfer, and stuff that you don't really get injured doing. So I like that stuff. I like to be outdoors. I like cooking. Um, I've always actually, since I was a kid, I've been fascinated and studied biblical prophecy too. That's really one of my big things, especially like times like these, it becomes even more interesting, So I really like science. Like, I'm always trying to learn something every day, feed my brain. So I'm pretty active, I would say. Yeah. I like to drink too. I like to go hang out with my buddies and have a few beers. I'm just a regular
Well,
guy.
everything you like is shut down right now.
I know. Actually, my bar that I'd been drinking at for over a decade is probably closed for good now.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, that was depressing. I really, man, people there became like a family to me. So we'll figure out a new place to hang out once this is over. But oh man, the memories there will live forever. It's a shame. It really is a shame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's for a lot of people too. I'm sure once we get through here, it's going to look a little different.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Are you still acting?
Actually, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I forgot. I was cast as a young Johnny Cash in a film called 116 McDougal, and that's why I cut my hair. It's a mess right now. It's It used to be pretty long if you saw my album. But yeah, I was cast as a young Johnny Cash in a film called 116 McDougal. The movie's about, well, that's the address of the Gaslight Cafe in Greenwich Village in the late 50s, early 60s. And that's where the counterculture movement really got started. You know, Bob Dylan got his start there as a writer. He was about 18 years old, 19. Woody Guthrie, Peter, Paul and Mary, a lot of writers too. Allen Ginsberg, Jack Kerouac, beat writers and folk musicians, basically. And the story's about how the owner, who's actually originally from Pittsburgh, the owner of the Gaslight Cafe, and how he protected his artists from the mafia, from the police, the FBI, the local government, because their message was considered a threat. It was counterculture, you know, early 60s, you know, radical movement. So the story's about how this place changed music history and American history. And well, when they found out that Johnny Cash would pass through there, whenever he was up in New York, he would stop in and play there, just unannounced, you know. They were like, well, we have to put that in the movie. He's so iconic, you know, he has to be part of this film. So a friend of mine who's on the film suggested me, and they called me up. The producers called me up and told me about it. And I said, guess what? I actually have a recording of me singing Folsom Prison Blues. I'll send it over to you. So I sent it to them. And within a couple hours, it was unanimous. All the producers, the director, they wanted me for the role. Wow. And I was the only person they even auditioned, which is pretty cool. So I get to play Johnny Cash in this film. Hopefully we film it this year. I don't know what the heck's happening with this, you know, with everything going on. But we already recorded the soundtrack. I have 2 songs on that. And we did a live performance last year on stage. It was kind of a condensed version of the film. So that was an awesome experience. So yeah, I'm still acting, and I'm just really looking forward to doing this. I just don't know when it's going to happen. So,
what do you? What's your bigger passion, the music or the acting?
It's become music. It's become, yeah, more music. Acting, I've always loved it since I was a kid. Actually, there's a time capsule that I opened up after high school that I'd everybody in our class made when we were in like first grade. And we opened it up and it said when I was in like first grade or whatever that I wanted to be an actor. So it's always kind of been a part of who I am, I think. And I'll always love it. But music, especially live, is like nothing else. Like it's instant gratification. It's such a rush. You know, you get a buzz just from being up there and it's awesome. And it's just really cool that I get to combine the music and the acting now. It's like it came full circle finally. And that just tells me, you know, I'm on the right path. I really hope so.
What instrument did you play in high school or in grade school?
I played the trombone, the baritone, and the double bass in the orchestra. The big boom, boom, boom double bass. Mm-hmm. I wish I'd stuck with it. I didn't. But how many people have said that before? And so I'm more of a lyricist, vocalist, frontman. By no means a lead guitarist, but I'm learning guitar. So I never really needed to learn guitar. It wasn't necessary until I started to pursue music. So I'm learning that. And luckily I have some music experience under my belt that it's making it a little bit easier for me. You know, but I try to focus mostly on the vocals. So I don't think I'll ever be a lead guitar player. That's fine. I'd rather sing anyway.
So, what do you think when all this is over with, all the virus, and you can get back out there? What should we be looking out for?
Well, I don't know how long it's going to take for live venues, you know, to open up. It might be a few months. I don't know, brother. You know, I think I'm just going to try and focus on getting into the studio and focus on recording, because that'll be open a lot sooner than the bars and clubs will be. So I'm going to try and get my next album ready to go for when this whole thing opens wide up and we're back to whatever the new normal will be. Yeah, I don't know what to expect. This is kind of uncharted territory, you know? It really is. It's stressing me out, so I don't want to talk about it.
Well, you're not alone, so don't worry. We're all feeling the same way.
Yeah,
It's like a different world when you go out. You try to go out to the grocery store.
I know. Oh my goodness. Last night I was at the gas station getting a frozen pizza and an iced tea, and the security guard comes up to me and says, "You can't come in here." I was like, "What?" He's like, "You don't have a mask." I was like, "That's not the law. You know, it's like a guideline." And he was like, "Well, then they won't serve you." I was like, "How about I do this?" He's like, "Okay." I was like, I was a little angry because he didn't tell other people. There were a few people walking around there. He didn't bother. I was like, what the heck? But then, you know what? I was like, thank you for what you're doing. I don't know if he was a security guy, police officer, or whatever. I said, you know what? Thank you. He's like, look, these aren't my rules. I said, I understand, but thank you for what you're doing. And I just went like this and got my pizza and left. So I'm having trouble adjusting to these things. Obviously, I do have a mask. I should keep it in my car for when I go out, but it's in the closet at home.
Yeah, I mean, I was out this morning, and I went to Walmart. I think you guys have Walmart out in Pittsburgh,
Oh, yeah.
and Target, and they will not let you in the store now without that mask.
Yeah,
As,
yeah. I think
but
actually I saw something on Facebook. I don't know if it's true. As of 8 o'clock last night, Governor Wolf mandates wearing a mask if you're out in the store or anywhere. So
yeah,
yeah,
well, let's not talk about that depressing stuff.
yeah. Oh well, sun's shining.
Yeah, that's it. That looks like a lot of grass you have to cut back there.
That's a golf course. That's not me.
Oh, all
This is
right.
my this is my grandfather's grass. I'm got his riding lawnmower here.
Oh,
Little John
nice.
Deere. Yeah, he's turning 95 in about 2 weeks. So I cut his grass for him. He's not home right now. He's out at he's in Des Moines, Iowa, at my Aunt Jackie's house. So we're just trying to keep him safe, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Matt. Well, I appreciate it. I mean, it was
You
really nice talking to you.
too, man. You too.
Stay positive. I'll put all your links up so everybody can find you.
Yeah.
Um, definitely go onto YouTube and take a look at the videos. I mean, the songs are all great. And it's like I said, I wouldn't say I'm a country fan, but then I start listening to everybody's songs, and I'm like, oh, I like that. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
So maybe I am a
Yeah.
country fan.
There's something for everybody in there, I think. You know, a little bit of something for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. Well, take care. I'll talk to you, and I appreciate it.
All right, brother.
And
Thank you for having me.
we'll make sure we tag you so you can see all this video.
Sounds good. Sounds
Thank
good.
you,
All right,
sir.
man. Stay safe and God
Take
bless.
care. You too. Yep, you too.
Bye, bro.